Let's rank the East from 15 to 1 part 1. At 15, I think it has to be the Nets. They traded away most of their vets that helped them win a good amount of games last season with Schroeder, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and D'Lo. Plus, they need to tank this year since they don't own their first round pick from 2027 to 2029. And I think they're going to give a lot of minutes to the 3 guards that they drafted in the 2025 NBA draft, so they're going to be terrible. Since point guards are one of the 2 positions in the league that take players a couple years to develop and get used to the role. At 14, I have to pick the Hornets. I don't know what's going on with this team because they have so much young talent but somehow are always cheeks every season. They have good players like LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Trey Mann. And I like their draft this year with Knipo and Kalkbrenner. But I just don't trust this team to win more than 25 games, especially with LaMelo Ball's injury history. And they have no starting level center and are basically going to have a 35-year-old Mason Plumlee and a rookie as their center rotation. At 13, I'm picking the Wizards. I really liked how they built their team. They have good vets in CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton to mentor their young guys. I like Bub Carrington, Trey Johnson, and Coulibaly. And I also like the Cam Whitmore trade. They only give up 2 second-round picks for a guy that has high potential in Cam Whitmore. The only player I really don't like on the Wizards is Sarr because he gives me DeAndre Ayton vibes. Sarr has a lot of potential, but I don't know if he'll be able to put it all together. Let's rank the East from 15 to 1 part 2. At 12, I picked the Bulls. If you have a friend that's a Bulls fan, just give them a hug. The offseason is supposed to be a time of optimism, but Bulls fans can't catch a break at all. Their first round pick this year, Noah Asenge, is mostly remembered for getting dunked on at Summer League. Lonzo Ball got traded for a worse player in Okoro and a player for player trade with no draft capital, which is wild because a lot of people were reporting that they could have got a first round pick last year at the trade deadline for Lonzo. But you know, the Bulls are going to bowl. They'd rather be mid than rebuild. It's wild how they have no player on the roster right now that has the potential to be a first option on a playoff team. They have a lot of good role players like Kobe White, Ayo, and Dalen Terry, but Josh Giddey is their best player, and at best, he would probably be the 3rd best player on a playoff team. At 11, I picked the Raptors. This Raptors team has a lot of solid players that are good 2nd or 3rd options on a team, so they should at least be close to being a 500 team. They're just missing that first option star player, but who knows, maybe that's Scotty Barnes. He really doesn't have that hype anymore that he used to have after having a great rookie year. I remember that people thought Scotty could be a top 5 player with his length and skill set, but he's probably closer to being a top 15 player than a top 5 player. I also like that they drafted Colin Murray Bowles. He's a great defender, but is a terrible 3-point shooter. So who knows if he's ready to be a rotation player with his limitations on offense right now. Let's rank the East from 15 to 1 part 3. At 10, I picked the Celtics. I think this team has enough talent with Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard to be a 500 team until the trade deadline. But I would expect them to tank post All-Star break to try to get a higher pick. Who knows, maybe this team can be like the Mavs and get a number 1 pick to add to this roster. Even if the Celtics don't get the first overall pick, the 2026 draft is considered a deep draft, so they should try to lose games to get a top 6 pick. I've seen some people say that Tatum might come back towards the end of the season, but I think that's a bad idea. Tatum should not return and just take the whole year off to ensure that he's fully recovered. There's no reason to risk another injury. At 9, I picked the Heat. The Heat have enough talent on this team to at least fight for a play-in or playoff spot. And they don't have a star player that is stirring up the pot, so there shouldn't be any distractions like last season. And they basically traded nothing to get Norman Powell. And I think Norman Powell is a great fit, especially for that price with Tyler Hero and Bam. I also expect Bam to have a better season this year because he was so bad last year. I think they found something with the Ware and Bam backcourt. Khalil Ware has the potential to be a rim protector that can defend at the perimeter with a 3-point shot. That's a skill set that's really important in the league, but the only issue is his motor. Will he be able to be consistent for 82 games and treat a game against the Hornets the same as if it was the Knicks? I feel like Khalil Ware has the potential to change this team from a playing team to a top 5 seed, but it all depends on him to make a leap and be consistent. Let's rank the East from 15 to 1 part 4. At 8, I'm picking the Pacers. This team is missing 2 starters from last season with Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. They're going to obviously miss Tyrese, but I feel like they have enough depth at the guard spot to not feel his absence as much. And I think this is a good time to see if Mathurin has the potential to be a starter or a player that comes off the bench. I feel like I should put this team lower since they don't have a starting level center on the roster, but I feel like this team can get by with Jay Huff and James Wiseman as their center rotation, especially if they play small ball with Siakam and Obi Toppin. But this team could easily lose more games and be lower if they decide to tank towards the end of the season, since they got their first round pick back this year. At the 7th seed, I'm picking the Sixers. This team is the definition of a team you can't trust. They can be higher or lower, but it all depends on if Embiid or Paul George are going to be healthy and play enough games. And it already looks like Embiid will miss training camp, so who knows if he'll be available for the beginning of the season. Even if the season goes bad, at least they have young players that can watch develop like Maxey, McCain, and Edgecombe. And I really like that they signed Trendon Watford. Even though he's bounced around the league, I think he has the potential to be a really good role player for a playoff team. He was one of the guys I wish the Suns could have signed because of how athletic and big he is. I picked the Bucks to be a 6th seed. The only reason that I picked this team to be a 6th seed is because of Giannis. If you take Giannis off this team, they would easily be one of the worst teams in the league. But Giannis is good enough as a two-way player to get a team to the playoffs. And I think Miles Turner can be an impactful player for them. But I'm not sure if he'll be as impactful as Brook Lopez. So I'm interested to see how Miles Turner will play for the Bucks. Let's rank the East from 15 to 1 part 5. At 5, I have to pick the Hawks. This Hawks team is either going to disappoint me or make me a proud dad. I really liked how they built their roster around Trae Young. They have long and athletic players that can defend like Dyson Daniels and Ricochet. And they added players that can make the team more versatile with Porzingis that can play the 4 or the 5. Nickeil Alexander-Walker can play the 2 or the 3. And their first round pick this year, Noel, can play at the 4 and can potentially play the 5. I hope this team is good and doesn't disappoint me. At 4, I'm going to pick the Pistons. Some people didn't like their offseason moves because they didn't make a meaningful upgrade, but I think they made the right moves because it doesn't get in the way of their young players developing. Jaden Ivey needs to show that he can be the second best player on a playoff team. Ron Holland and Thompson can continue to develop and show they can be the best 3-and-D wings in the league, and I think Cade will continue to improve and will have an amazing season, to the point he'll probably be an MVP candidate. I have a lot of confidence in this team because I think they should have beat the Knicks in the playoffs last year, and I think they'll use that experience to grow this season and win more games. At 3, I'm picking the Magic. They did one of the most unexpected moves of the offseason by trading 4 first-round picks and a pick swap for Desmond Bane. This whole time I thought they were going to trade for Anthony Simmons and call it a day, but they got a real meaningful upgrade to improve their 3-point shooting. And by adding Desmond Bane, they're not getting someone that is bad on defense. He can hold his own and make open 3-point shots when Franz or Banchero pass it to him. If Franz can make threes this season, then this team will be really dangerous. I also like that they added Tyus Jones, who can also make threes. And the only reason he was really bad on the Suns is because no one on the Suns could cover up for his bad defense. But the Magic have enough defensive talent to hide him on defense. Let's rank the East from 15 to 1 part 6. At 2, I'm picking the Knicks. I think this was the toughest pick for me out of all these teams just because of how bad the coaching search looked for the Knicks. It was just wild how the Knicks were asking every team in the league if they can interview their coach. And it's not a good look to fire your coach that took you to the conference finals, and that it looked like you had no real plans to find a successor. They did eventually hire Mike Brown, but is he better than Tibbs? I don't know. But the Knicks have enough talent to be the second seed in the East. I really like the additions of Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele. They'll be good players off the bench for them, and they can play small ball center with Yabusele when Robinson is out. And I'm also looking forward to seeing more of Cat at the 4 and Robinson at the 5. I hope Robinson has a healthy season, because he's only played in 48 games the past 2 seasons out of 164 games. At number 1, it has to be the Cavs. This team is just built to win regular season games. They have enough depth and talent to handle injuries. I really like the Lonzo Ball move because he can be the point guard if Mitchell or Garland are out. But he can also play next to either one of them because he doesn't need the ball to be effective. He can hit threes and defend and just be that 3-and-D role player that they need. Even though this team is going to win a lot of regular season games, I don't think any East team is going to be afraid of them, especially after the way they lost in the playoffs. I know the Cavs had some injuries, but they lost in 5 games in the second round when they were favored to win the series. And if you watch those games, it looked like the Cavs couldn't handle the pressure. So if this Cavs team doesn't make it to the conference finals this season in a weak Eastern Conference, is it time to shake up the roster? Fox signed a 4-year, $229 million extension with the Spurs. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like this move at all for the Spurs. I like Fox, but I don't see a world where he's going to be better than one of Harper or Castle in 5 years, especially on that contract. Plus, Harper and Castle's skill set overlaps with Fox. So it's not like the Spurs are going to need Fox badly to be a good team for the next 5 years. But who knows, maybe I believe in Dylan Harper and Castle too much. I also don't like his contract because I don't know if it will be tradable in a couple years. Fox isn't the type of player that fits on any team. Most teams already have a starting point guard and probably don't want to trade for a guard that depends on his speed to score. The Kings are reportedly offering Monk and a lottery protected first for Kuminga. I think it's a good deal, but I can see why the Warriors don't want to take this deal. In this trade, the Warriors will be really small. Even though Kuminga isn't a great defender or rebounder, he's still a wing that's 6'7" that can play in a big lineup with Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond. While Monk is a small guard that can score but can't do other things. If you had Monk to a Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond lineup, he would be the odd man out and be attacked every possession. Plus, this offseason has shown that teams don't value shooting guards that can only score with Sexton and Clarkson. So who knows if the Warriors will be able to get something valuable from Monk at the trade deadline.